Yes. All right.
Oh, the words from the pages change your world.
Good morning, Cheryl, Justin, Kai, Wendy in the building. Woo!
Can change your world.
All right, my beautiful people, thanks so much for tuning in. This is ERGJ, Certified Financial Educator, founder of New Black Wall Street. We're back here with New Black Wall Street Virtual Book Club, and we are going through the book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And here's the deal, guys. This book is very controversial, but here's the deal. It has this thing called strategy. So everybody put in the comments below strategy. So here's the deal, guys. We want to read this book so we can understand strategies on how to apply these laws to our life. But more than that, we want to understand when these laws are being applied against us so we can always operate in a position of power. That's right. Now, today's episode has been brought to you by True Detergent. That's right. True Detergent, black-owned, manufactured, black distributed right here in the Atlanta area. We're doing free delivery to your doorstep, and we also are doing nationwide shipping. You give us a call at 678-851-2400. That's 678-851-2400. Now, here's the deal, guys. You're going to wash your clothes anyway. The question is, are you going to practice what you preach by letting your dollars circulate right back within your very own community by switching to a black-owned company? Well, here's the deal, guys. 101 ounce, HE certified, halal certified, no animal products, 4 times concentrated. Meaning this little cup right here, you only need a quarter of it. You only need this bit of much of detergent to wash your clothes. That's right. Well, here's the deal, guys. You got to make a decision to make the switch. 678-851-2400, True Detergent. Thanks so much for that, Ms. Lynn. That's right. True Detergent. Make the switch. Now, we got a couple of opportunities that are coming up and available to you guys with Club Millie. If you are representing Club Millie this morning, go ahead and put in the comments below, #Club Millie. Tonight, yesterday, we talked about the power equity funding. Now, many of you guys missed it. We had a black man come speak to us yesterday about how to raise capital without the bank. And so he talked to us about how he raised $250,000 to get his business going in the vodka industry or the distilled spirits industry. And for some reason, of our infinite wisdom, we decided not to show up. Well, guys, I don't know what you guys are doing. I offered that class for $20, and me and you guys did not show up. Well, hey, that's on you. We're going to continue to teach, and those that want to show up, show up. So here's the deal. Tonight, we're going to talk about the introduction to commercial shipping. If you are a home-based business, right, and you ship out a lot of stuff like I do, well, you want to be able to ship it out for as cheap as possible. That's right. We want to be frugal. We want to be wise with our expenses. Well, you can learn a little bit about the introduction onto commercial shipping. Learn that tonight. But not only that, we got a double header tonight. That's right, the double header. We also have our Dow 30 investment session tonight. This is going to be for those that are new to investing. You are a beginner when it comes to the stock market. Well, you want to show up to the Dow 30 investment session tonight. It's our March Madness Dow 30 bracketology. That's right. You guys are paying attention to NCAA. I'm paying attention to the Dow. That's right. We're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about Pfizer. We're going to talk. Let me let it pop up. I'm moving faster than it is. We're going to talk about Pfizer, Chevron, Travelers, GE, Walmart, and ExxonMobil. If you are a beginner and you say, I don't know nothing about the stock market, I wish somebody would teach me. Well, you want to learn? Then you need to show up. Everybody put in the comments below, show up. See, there's something wrong with our community. We just decide not to show up, and then we complain about what we don't know. Well, no, you need to show up. You show up, you never know what you're going to get. And then also our third offer we want to make you aware of is for the kids this Saturday. That's right, this Saturday, we are also having our youth real estate workshop. So if you have a teenager, middle school or teenage son or daughter, and you want them to learn about real estate, well, you want to make sure you sign up for them this Saturday. You don't want to be the person that's in the way of your kids learning what they need to learn to make their money work for them just because you decided not to make your money work for you. Parents, get out the way. Let us teach your kids so they can be the very best they can be when it comes to money. So I've mentioned 3 different things to you that you need to consider signing up for this week. Tonight, the introduction to commercial shipping. Tonight, which is Wednesday, March 22nd, just in case you happen to listen to this later. You got till 6 o'clock to sign up. You can also have the Dow 30 investment session. That's going to be geared towards the stock market beginners. And then on Saturday, what I'm most proud about is to be able to offer a class, a financial literacy class to the kids. And Frederick Douglass says this. He says it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. That's right. It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. That's why I focus on the kids. So you're looking for a stock class or something for teens? Oh, well, you talking to the right brother, because we can make that happen. That's easy. That's easy for me to do. So yeah, let's make sure we talk offline, Ms. Eric, and see what we can put together, not only for your teens, but for teens across America, because I am all over the place. We got a global enterprise. That's right, global enterprise going on with the New Black Wall Street. That's right. So anyway, we are into our virtual book club. We are into our virtual book club, and we're going over the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Again, you can get this book through me at www.ergj.net. We've been going through it. We're on law number 32. I know you don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time. It's law number 32. Let's get it. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Play to people's fantasy. Now, I want to warn you, just again, this book, reason why we're reading this is for us to understand the law and to apply it to our life, but more so than that, to understand when it's being applied against us. Because what we're going to find is these laws have been applied against the Black community for centuries. And for some reason, we don't learn, and therefore we continue to find ourselves subjugated to the system. Well, what we're trying to help you understand, once we understand the laws, then we can always operate from a position of power. Everybody put in the comments below power. You've got the power. All right, here's your judgment. The truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. The truth is often avoided because it's ugly and unpleasant. Now, how many of you guys would agree that our community has been avoiding the truth because it's ugly and unpleasant? We continue to go after the things that appeal to our senses and say that damn with the truth. Well, what I'm saying is, damn with all that appealing to me, I want the truth. I'm seeking the truth. I want to handle the truth. The truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. Never appeal to truth and reality unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people who can manufacture romance or conjure up fantasy are like oases in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. There's great power in tapping into the fantasies of the masses. There is great power in tapping into the fantasies of the masses. Everybody put in the comments below, fantasies of the masses. Let me repeat this again. This is good stuff. The truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. Never appeal to truth and reality. No, let me tell you, people that come into our community, they never appeal to truth and reality. Unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Are you the type of person who will tell people like it is, no matter how it is? And you understand that, hey, if I tell you like it is, there's going to be backlash. This happened to me yesterday. I told some woman exactly what it was, and we became unfriends for about 20 minutes until she realized I was telling the truth. And she came back. We apologized. We broke bread together. But those few 20 minutes where I decided, you know what? Regardless of how you feel, I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, you are acting like an asshole. Okay? So when you do that, you got to be man, woman enough to understand that most people hate the truth. You must be prepared for disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people who can manufacture, this is a key word, manufacture romance or conjure up fantasy are like the oasis in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. Not many people are looking for truth. Not many people are concerned about reality. Most people, the fantasies of the masses, they flock to what sounds good, what seems good, what looks good, but may not be good. Let me repeat that again. The masses, they flock to what sounds good, what looks good, what feels good, but may not be good. They don't want the truth because they can't handle the truth. All right, here are your keys to power. Woo! Here are your keys to power. Fantasy can never operate alone. Fantasy can never operate alone. It requires the backdrop of humdrum and the mundane. It is the oppressiveness of reality that allows fantasy to take root and bloom. In 16th century Venice, the reality was one of decline and loss of prestige. The corresponding fantasy described a sudden recovery of past glories through the miracle of alchemy. While the reality only got worse, the Venetians inhabited a happy dream world in which their city restored its fabulous wealth and power overnight, turning dust into gold. The person who can spin a fantasy, everybody put in the comments below fantasy. The person who can spin a fantasy, a myth, a mirage. The person who can spin a fantasy out of an oppressive reality. I can stop right there. Do I really need to read the rest? I mean, my goodness, the person who can spin a fantasy out of oppressive reality can spin a fantasy, something that's not real, something that's just a dream. It's not, it doesn't even fit, but they can spin a fantasy out of a oppressive reality. Now, I hate to say this, but when I think of people who can spin a fantasy out of oppressive reality, you in the comments below, I want you to go ahead and give us some people or some people who get paid to spin fantasy out of an oppressive reality. Anybody you can think of that gets paid, this is their job. This is their job, to spin fantasy out of an oppressive reality, to make people feel good, to make people see good, to make people hear good, even though reality tells us it's not good. Woo! I'm trying my best. I mean, you know, I think of preachers, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Steve Harvey, Obama. Oh. They can spin fantasy out of an oppressive reality, has access to untold power. The person who can spin fantasy out of an oppressive reality has access to untold power. As you search for the fantasy that will take hold of the masses, then keep your eye on the banal truths that weigh heavily on us all. Never be distracted by people's glamorous portraits of themselves and their lives. Search and dig for what really imprisons them. Once you find that, you have the magical key that will put great power in your hands. Although times and people change, let us examine a few of the oppressive realities that endure and the opportunities for power they provide. Here it goes. Again, although times and people change, let us examine a few of the oppressive realities that endure and the opportunities for power they provide. Y'all gonna learn today. So here's one. Example number one, the reality. The reality is this: change is slow and gradual. It requires hard work, a bit of luck, a fair amount of self-sacrifice, and a lot of patience. Here's the reality. Everybody put in this comments below. Change is slow and gradual. That's the reality. Put that in the comments below. It requires hard work, a bit of luck, a fair amount of self-sacrifice, and a lot of patience. Here is the fantasy. A sudden transformation will bring a total change in one's fortunes, bypassing work, bypassing luck, bypassing self-sacrifice, and bypassing time in one fantastic stroke. The reality is that change is slow and gradual. The fantasy is that you can change overnight. This is, of course, the fantasy par excellence of the charlatans who prowl among us to this day, and was the key to Bragadino's success. Promise a great and total change from poor to rich, from sickness to health, to misery to ecstasy. Benny Hill? Benny Hill, anyone? Benny Hill? Joel Osteen, anyone? Do I hear Joel Osteen anywhere? Oh, I'm sorry. Creflo Dollar? Do I hear Creflo? Creflo? Oh, don't shout me down because I'm preaching good. This, of course, the fantasy par excellence of the charlatans who prowl among us to this day. Promise a great and total change from poor to rich, from sickness to health, from misery to ecstasy, and you will have followers. How did the great 16th century German quack Leonard Thurmeister become the court physician of the Elector of Brandenburg without even studying medicine? How in the hell did Donald Trump become president without having any background in politics? How in the hell did fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger become governor without having any prior experience? How did Kevin Johnson become senator without having any prior experience? Instead of offering amputations, leeches, and foul-tasting purgatives, the medications of the time, Thurmeister offered sweet-tasting elixirs and promised instant recovery. Fashionable courtiers especially wanted his solution of drinkable gold, which cost a fortune. If some inexplicable illness assailed you, Thurmeister would consult a horoscope and prescribe a talisman. Who could resist such a fantasy? Health and well-being without sacrifice and pain. Again, the reality. Change is slow and gradual. It requires hard work, a bit of luck, a fair amount of self-sacrifice, and a lot of patience. See, when we start talking about the truth, we lose followers. I want you guys to notice that. Once we start talking about truth, we lose people watching the show. That's okay because they can't handle the truth. I love it. The fantasy is that a sudden transformation will bring about a total change in one's fortunes, bypassing work, bypassing luck, bypassing self-sacrifice, and bypassing a time in one fantastic stroke. Here's example number 2. The reality. The social realm has a hard set of codes and boundaries. We understand these limits and know that we have to move within the same familiar circles day in and day out. Here's the fantasy. We can enter a totally new world with different codes and the promise of adventure. I know that's right. The truth will separate us, the lions from the sheep. All right, here's the talk about this. In the early 1700s, all London was abuzz with the talk of a mysterious stranger, a young man named George Plamazar. Right? He had arrived from what was to most Englishmen a fantastical land, the island of Formosa, now Taiwan, off the coast of China. Oxford University engaged Plamazar to teach the island's language. A few years later, he translated the Bible into Formosan, then wrote a book, an immediate bestseller on Formosa's history and geography. English royalty wined and dined the young man, and everywhere he went, he entertained his host with wondrous stories of his homeland and its bizarre customs. After Plamazar died, however, his will revealed that he was in fact merely a Frenchman with rich imagination. Everything he had said about Formosa, its alphabet, its language, its literature, its entire culture, he had invented. He had built on the English public's ignorance of the place to concoct an elaborate story that fulfilled their desire for the exotic and strange. British's culture's rigid control of people's dangerous dreams gave him the perfect opportunity to exploit their fantasy. The fantasy of the exotic. Everybody put in the comments below the fantasy of the exotic. The fantasy of the exotic, of course, can also skirt the sexual. It must not come too close, though, for the physical hinders the power of fantasy. It can be seen, it can be grasped, and then tired of the fate of most courtesans. The bodily charms of the mistress only whet the master's appetite for more and different pleasures, a new beauty to adore. To bring power, fantasy must remain to some degree unrealized. Literally unreal. This is the power of the virgin. To bring power, fantasy must remain to some degree unrealized. Literally unreal. The dancer Mata Hari, for instance, who rose to public prominence in Paris before World War I, had quite ordinary looks. Her power came from the fantasy she created of being strange and exotic. This is the power of the strip dancer, or the stripper. Unknowable and indecipherable. The taboo she worked with was less sex itself than the breaking of social codes. Another form of fantasy of the exotic is simply the hope for relief from boredom. Con artists love to play on the oppressiveness of the working world, its lack of adventure. Their cons might involve, say, the recovery of lost Spanish treasure, with the possible participation of an alluring Mexican senorita and a connection to the president of South American country. Anything offering release from the humdrum. This is the power of the thug, or the power of the gangster, or the power of the stripper. What do? They offer hope for the relief of boredom. How many guys know? I mean, everyday living, it could be quite boring if you do the same thing every day, different day, right? It can be quite mundane. So once you get a relief of the boredom, to go to the strip club, to hang out with the guy who seems to get the girl and is on the street making money, hustling, right? It just seems like it's a great place to be. It is the fantasy of the exotic which captures people's attention and imagination and often leads them to slaughter. We're talking about operating from a position of power. Next, example number 3. Here's the reality. The reality says this: society is fragmented and full of conflict. Society is fragmented and full of conflict. Here's the fantasy. People can come together in a mystical union of souls. People can come together in a mystical union of souls. In the 1920s, the con man Oscar Hartzell made a quick fortune out of the age-old Sir Francis Drake swindle, basically promising any sucker who happened to be surnamed Drake a substantial share of the long-lost Drake treasure to which Hartzell had access. Thousands across the Midwest fell for the scam, which Hartzell cleverly turned into a crusade against the government and everyone else who was trying to keep the Drake fortune out of the rightful hands of its heirs. There developed a mystical union of the oppressed Drakes, or the oppressed blacks, or the oppressed immigrants, with emotional rallies or protests or rallies or marches or meetings. Let me repeat that again. There developed a mystical union of the oppressed with emotional rallies and meetings. I think we still see this today. We're talking about 1920, but it's almost 2020, and the same thing is happening. See, here's the deal, man. I continue to tell you guys, history continues to repeat itself because we don't learn from history. Promise such a union, and you can gain much power. Always ask yourself, who is the leader of the rally? Who is the leader of the march? Who is the leader of the protest? And there you will find your charlatan. Oh, don't shout me down because I'm preaching good this morning. Ask yourself, who is the leader of the march? Who is the leader of the protest? Who is the leader of the rally? And there you will find your charlatan. I mean, Black Lives Matter? Anybody? Anybody? Black Lives Matter? There you will find your charlatan. Y'all don't want the truth because you can't handle the truth. This is a fantasy for demagogues to play on. And in example number 4, our last example as we end today's discussion. And we're talking about playing to people's fantasies. The reality, death. The dead cannot be brought back. The past cannot be changed. The fantasy. A sudden reversal of this intolerable fact. Now, this con has many variations, but requires great skill and subtlety. The beauty and the importance of the art of Vermeer have long been recognized, but his paintings are small in number and are extremely rare. In the 1930s, though, Vermeers began to appear on the art market. Experts were called on to verify them and pronounce them real. Possession of these Vermeers would crown a collector's career. It was like the resurrection of Lazarus in a strange way. Vermeer had been brought back to life. The past had been changed. Only later did it come that the new Vermeers were the work of a middle-aged Dutch forger named Han van Merguren. And he had chosen Vermeer for his scam because he understood fantasy. Everybody put in the comments below, understanding fantasy. The paintings would seem real precisely because the public and the experts as well so desperately wanted to believe they were. They seemed real because everyone wanted to believe that they were real, even though they were fake. It seems so real because everyone wants to believe it's real, even if it's fake. It seems like the truth because everyone wants to believe it's the truth, even if it's false. Tell a lie long enough and everyone will begin to believe the lie. No one is seeking the truth. And the good book tells us, seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Ask and you shall receive. How many of you are looking for truth? Or are you looking for what makes you feel good? See, truth has no emotion tied to it. It's not happy or sad. It's just the truth. How many of you are looking for truth? Or are you the victim of this law where you allow other people to play to your fantasies? Remember, the key to fantasy is distance. See, your leaders, they are away from you. They're not close to you. They're on the TV. They're in their mansions. They're leading from afar. They're never leading side by side, arm in arm. They are always leading from afar. The key to fantasy is distance. The distant has allure and promise. It seems simple and problem-free. What you are offering then should be ungraspable. Never let it become oppressively familiar. It is the mirage in the distance, withdrawing as the sucker approaches. Never be too direct in describing the fantasy. Keep it vague. As a forager of fantasies, let your victim come close enough to see and be tempted, but keep him far away enough that he stays dreaming and desiring. Now here's your image. Here's what you want to imagine as we're talking about playing on people's fantasies. It's the moon. Imagine the moon right now. Unattainable, always changing shape, disappearing and reappearing. We look at it, imagine, wonder, and pine. Never familiar, continuously provoker of dreams. Do not offer the obvious. Promise the moon. Do not offer the obvious. Promise the moon. The key to power of law number 32 is to promise the moon. As a matter of fact, I would say this, that people come into our community, they promise what cannot be obtained, and we believe in the promise. Instead of believing what's obvious, what is within our grasp, we go after what we cannot grasp, and therefore we are always left disappointed because we go after the promise for the moon. I could go way deep on this because some people still believe we landed on the moon. I'm not going to go there today, though. Authority. Let me move on because y'all ain't gonna get on me today. I'm not going to Facebook jail because of y'all. Authority. A lie is an allurement, a fabrication that can be embellished into a fantasy. It can be clothed in the raiments of a mystic conception. Truth is cold, sober fact, not so comfortable to absorb. A lie is more palatable. The most detested person in the world is the one who always tells the truth. Oh my goodness. The most detested person in the world is the one who always tells the truth, who never romances. I found it far more interesting and profitable to romance to tell the truth. To romance than to tell the truth. The most detestable person in the world is the one who always tells the truth. Yikes. Woo. Well, guys, this is law number 32, play on people's fantasies. Let's read the judgment once again and then we'll wrap up. The truth is often avoided because it's ugly and unpleasant. Never appeal to truth and reality unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people who can manufacture romance and conjure up fantasy are like the oasis in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. There is great power in tapping into the fantasies of the masses. Well, guys, the law number 32 on the 48 laws of power, going through the MBWS, the New Black Wall Street Virtual Book Club. And here's the deal, guys. We read stuff like this because we can change the way that we think. We'll change the results in our life. And I believe today we got a great teaching, a great understanding of strategy that we can either learn to apply into our life, but more than that, we can understand when these laws are being applied against us so we can always remain in a position of power. Well, this is ERGJ, your certified financial educator, founder of New Black Wall Street. And I want you guys to remember this as you go out into your wonderful Wednesday, that it takes a village, but it starts with us. Let's build as we climb together. Have a wonderful day.